Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Steffi and I just want to talk today a little bit about what I've been up to in the past weeks, the things that I plan on doing in the coming weeks, and a little bit also mention some video ideas that I've had. And if you're inclined, maybe you could give me some feedback on what you're thinking if you'd be interested in those. Like many of you, I've been stuck at home for a lot more time lately than usual. And I'm happy to say that I've been using this time to make more art. It's not a lot of art compared to other people, more productive people, but compared to past year me or past decade me, I've been a lot more productive and I'm really happy. The thing is, I haven't really recorded much of it, so not a lot of videos came out of it. But I wanted to, use this video to a little bit of document what I'm trying to do or what I've been trying to do, where I'm at, and where I try to go next, what my goals are, what I'm trying to learn really. But also I've been thinking about the things that I could maybe pass on and teach a little bit about. I'm really no expert in any medium whatsoever, but I am curious enough to try things out, and I have a few ideas of what I could put into videos, but more about that later. Now, if you've been on my channel before, you may have seen the last two videos that I posted, which were speed drawings, or snippets of the work in progress of two of my dry brush portraits, which I really like doing. So the first one was this portrait of Karolina Żebrowska, and I really like how this one turned out. This challenge with this one, and I usually try to challenge myself with something, was the dark hair, which I haven't done very often with dry brush. I mean, I have done it before, but not to the extent here with the big curls. So that was the challenge with this one, but I really like how it turned out. And the other dry brush portrait that I made had the challenge of being on a bigger paper than I usually do. So just the format was different, and also I've never tried this particular paper before. It's still watercolor hot press paper, which is what I like to use for dry brushing. This is by company Aquarelle, which is a French company. I'd never tried their paper before, but it worked really well for dry brushing. At least I couldn't really tell any difference to the Fabriano paper that I usually use. Was a little bit impatient and I don't know if you can tell in the camera. You focus on that camera. I don't know if you can see a slight graininess, but I think that was just because I was rather impatient and did not wipe my brush clean enough to start the very light layers. So I think that is on me. Well, I really liked working on this paper, and I liked how the portrait turned out, even though I was not completely super happy with it. But I mean, that's part of being a portrait artist. If you're too happy too quickly, you're probably doing something wrong. Now, I think what I'm going to show you next is actually something that preceded these two. Actually, I can only really show you this one here. I mean, the rest of the page is just doodles. But what I wanted to show you was this. Maybe you could focus on that camera. Yep. These lips. Basically, it has a watercolor pencil base. And then obviously I used water on it. And I put colored pencil on top. No, I actually put the watercolor pencil on top without blending them out anymore. Yeah, just to try to learn a little bit more about watercolor pencils. And that's actually one of the videos that I would like to make, because watercolor pencils, you find a lot of YouTube videos about first impressions, but not really about in-depth technique things or recommendations who watercolor pencils are really good for. So I was thinking of filling that void and make a little video about watercolor pencils and who I would recommend these to, because I really think that they have some unique qualities that you can't really get with watercolors or with colored pencils, and that's really, the interesting thing. So if you'd be interested in a video about watercolor pencils, Great, you did not even focus on me the entire time. Anyway, if you'd be interested in a video about watercolor pencils, what they're good for, who they're good for, yeah, let me know. And yeah, I'd actually really like to make this video even if you say you're not interested. But I was also trying to get better at colored pencil. And I'm really, at the end of the day, I kind of want to marry all of my ideas with minimalist portrait art, because that's something that I'm actually really interested in. So I made, a long time ago, I don't know, did I already share it? I don't think so. Made this minimalist portrait. This is supposed to be Margot Robbie, but if you don't see that, that's cool too, because really what the idea was to put very minimal color here and yeah, basically leave the hair very minimal and just do that for a little bit. But it's always good to, know a little bit about how colored pencils work better, even if you are only trying to use them for minimal art. I kind of want to know what they're capable of, and I will never become a hyper-realist, I don't think. But I wanted to, of course, to practice a little bit of my shortcomings. So here, this braided hair, because I'm really not good at hair. And I made these with the 12 set of polychromos, which, you just have to layer a lot, but otherwise you can get already pretty good colors with these. So these were 2 examples from my sketchbooks that I've made lately. Moving on. Okay, so now these things I can only show very briefly and can't take credit for the design whatsoever because I blatantly stole those 2. The pictures are for my niece and my nephew, and I'm just not very good at stylized illustration so much. And this is not very stylized. This is pretty much on the verge of realism. But yeah, I'm not very good at it, so I just decided to steal the designs. I just changed something slightly. So I basically took this picture of a Pegasus and lowered the wings a little bit so that I could add this unicorn horn. Do you call that a horn? Yeah, but that's basically for my niece. It's acrylic, and also in acrylic I made this completely stolen design of a saber-toothed tiger. And I really enjoyed working on both of these. Like, acrylic is really fun. But yeah, this is definitely not something that I can proudly present to you and say, I made this. I mean, I made it, but I did not design it in any way. So I stole this off of artists that I can't even credit because I just found them on tiny thumbnails. So I have no idea who made the originals, and I wish I could credit, but let's just forget that I made these. I'm not going to sell them or anything. They're just for private use. So yeah, that's that. Then I don't know if you're interested in Disney art at all, but you may have heard of Aaron Blaise. He was one of the major Disney animators in the past years. And he has a very successful YouTube channel, and he actually records or makes online classes for lots of digital art, but also traditional media. And he has a huge discount right now to basically keep us entertained who are in self-quarantine or lockdown or whatever you want to call it. And so he had this super cheap charcoal coals. I think it was just $1 or something. So I wanted to learn a little bit about charcoal drawing. I didn't have all the tools, but I tried to follow. This one is made with charcoal pencils. The white pencil I had to substitute with a white colored pencil because my white charcoal pencil for some reason was not very good. But I made this lioness, which, yeah, I think turned out pretty good considering. But I can't say that I'm completely in love with charcoal, unfortunately, because it's very messy, and I don't really love messy art supplies very much. I do occasionally like oil pastel, but I make one drawing and then I'm like, yeah, let's go back to something cleaner. It's just a thing. The same thing with pastel pencils. I've never tried them out, but I have some pastel, like chalky sticks. And I don't like how they scratch on the paper. And I know a lot of people have this issue. Like they would love to work with pastel pencils, but they just can't bring themselves to do it. And I've never really wanted to buy pastel pencils just because of that. I don't really think that I would enjoy the scratchiness on the paper. And I feel charcoal has that a lot. I don't know if this is normal or if my pencils are really old or just low quality. I'm not sure. But I don't really love that about them either. I'm actually not done yet. I want to, at the end of the day, like as I said, I want to combine minimal portrait art with like more color. I don't know if I said it like that, but minimal portrait art is something that I'm interested in. But I want to learn how to incorporate color, so I'm trying different things out, and I really want to learn watercolor. So I tried this portrait. I don't think it turned out super well, but I basically made this watercolor background and then put the portrait portion with colored pencil on top. I don't think it's like super awesome or anything. It's good that I tried it out, but I'm not in love particularly with this piece. And yeah, I don't know. It's just something nice to have tried, but it's not something that I'm completely super in love with. Yeah. But with that portrait, I made the background with watercolor and I wanted to make it loose, and I'm not very good at it. I'm not a very loose painter yet. Like, I have always been a tight drawer, sometimes also a very messy drawer, depending on what I'm trying to do. Like, my sketchbooks are very messy, but I can also make a very clean line, especially when I add in details. But to paint loosely is something that I'm not familiar with, but I love the look of watercolor, so I want to get better at it. So I tried to partly make it. I also stole this reference photo from the internet, and I think it's copyrighted, so nothing that I should hold into the camera for too long. I already framed this cute little Easter bunny that I tried to make. So I'll try to be loose with the background and then be very detailed with the face. I actually added the face details with colored pencil on top of the watercolor. And I really like how this one turned out. Now this one is also framed. Yeah, after the bunny, I wanted to do some more watercolor. And I actually still want to do more watercolor. Be a little bit more loose with it. So I made this cheetah and I tried to, I don't know if you can see that very well. I wanted to be a little bit more loose. How it fades out and just not be too strict. I don't know, you can see here, like the edges, and I didn't want to blend out everything perfectly. So you can kind of see the different layers. Sorry with the glass, it's of course a little bit reflecting. So yeah, I wanted to try that out. I used watercolor and then also the black dots I added with colored watercolor pencil, and then I blended them out. The problem is that if you don't blend them out completely, they will get reactivated. So I tried to add more washes on top, but that did not work out so well because it would just activate the black and then muddy up all of the colors. And again, I added the details in the face and stuff and some of the black spots with normal colored pencil. And that's that. And I'm apologizing that this video is already so long, but then again, I kind of want to just document what I've been doing, and I'm actually quite happy with how many things I've been able to produce in the past weeks. The last one that I want to share with you, show you, is this dog portrait, puppy portrait that I made largely with watercolor. Very few watercolor pencils, and then, but again, the details I added in color pencil because I really like the combination of the looseness of watercolor, but then adding the details in the face with color pencil. This one is not very loose, like at the end of the day, it's just a tiny bit of, I don't know, can you see? Like you can see here in the here it looks a little bit more loose in the legs, but then as you go to the face, I don't know, I have to make sure that you can see it. There's lots of tiny details that I added meticulously Oh, also I used white gouache, and I know that some traditional watercolor artists, like the purists, they frown upon that, but I really had to because I'm not very good with watercolor yet. So I had some ugly edges, hard edges that I wanted to cover up, and then also just to be able to put these fine hairs back in. That was just too hard to do in one go. Like I really tried to spare them out, but it was not very easy. So I did go over it with white gouache quite a bit. Yeah, but I really like how this one turned out. And actually the owner of this puppy would maybe like to buy this one. So it's always a good thing too. So that's all I wanted to show you. But of course I also said that I wanted to talk about a little bit more about the future. So I already said minimal portraits, incorporating color, and always mixing media in like interesting ways, or ways in which like the single mediums can really shine, and combining those. Like I love the looseness of watercolor, and I like the high amount of detail you can get with, for example, colored pencil. So I kind of want to marry them, and I've seen other artists do that very nicely. I also don't necessarily want to use watercolor for realistic effects, like to add realistic colors and then put colored pencil on top. I mean, that's something that I'm also interested in, but I also want to just use it as pops of color in an otherwise black and white or grayscale kind of drawing, because I find that really interesting. I've seen other artists do that, and that's something that I find just aesthetically very pleasing. So that's where I want to go, what I want to study more. I really want to learn more about watercolor. Yeah, but as far as videos, I already said that watercolor pencil video is something that I would like to make. But then also because I, like to call myself a portrait artist, because that's something that I'm very interested in compared to other subjects. Like I'm not really a landscape artist. I love to look at them, I just don't like to work on them. So for me, portraits is something that I've been interested for a long time, so that's why I like to call myself a portrait artist. And I feel like there's lots of beginner tutorials on YouTube about how to draw a face, but I was thinking of making one that's a little bit more about how to capture the likeness of a face and what I think is important. And obviously this is just, I've never been trained professionally, but I think there's a thing or two that I've just picked up over the years, so I feel like I think that would be a good tip for someone who's really trying to get into portraits, to capture the likeness of the person that they're trying to portray. Because I mean, building characters is something completely different from capturing the likeness in a portrait. So you need to learn a lot of the same things, but then you use them in very different ways. So I thought some videos, I don't know if it's okay to do it in one video. Maybe I'll make it into more of a little bit of a series maybe. But what do you think of that? Like a video about portrait drawing and what I think would be important, like how to study a face to get the likeness right. Like that would be an idea. Actually, not so happy that this video turned out so long. Maybe I will have to re-record it, but I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Otherwise, I'll just made it for myself, because maybe in a year or two I will try to look back and see where I was at this point in time and what I was artistically interested in. I hope you have a creative week, creative month, creative time, creative year, and make the best of the current situation. Bye!